Big Bang Theory, where you got 50 million years, you got a few seconds to describe it. So my job is something like that today. 50 years.
Oh my God.
Okay. So look, just stating the obvious. Everybody has got to the point. That is, we're here just to have fun, to meet each other sometimes after many years. And it was a privilege to be on the scene at that time. I was a resident coming off the service in those days, and our very first transplant in September of 1967 was really, it was a shame of things to come. What happened was a person could not come off the heart lung machine who was having a heart operation, and the family was good enough to overcome their grief and their distress and give permission for those organs to be used. We were then able to keep the machine going, take out the kidneys, rush a patient in the hospital, and she kept it for a number of years after that. She herself was a survivor of Auschwitz. Okay, that was our first transplant. Now, understand that we knew nothing. We did not know how long these things could last. We didn't know what drugs could be used. And we didn't know, if you could preserve it for a few hours or what. So that's where we were. Now, if anybody deserves credit for this room full of people today, it's this gentleman, Dr. Marvin Gleedman, whose foresight in those days was to build a transplant program because he could see what the future was going to bring, that it was going to be the way to go in medicine. Not just surgery now. On the other side of the coin, there was very little care for kidney disease. Medicare wasn't covering it, remember. It's like what the third world countries do today. You just died if you had kidney disease. So that changed. It changed with the understanding that this machine could keep people alive. And even then they said, oh God, we can't do it for children. We don't know what to do with children. So children were not included in that. So what happened for children? Dr. Greifer, who at that time was based mostly in Einstein, again had man of foresight. He set up the first pediatric dialysis unit in the world. And not satisfied with that, he set up summer camps where these children could come and be dialyzed as they needed, but were not, left ignored in summer. So that's happened there. And of course, along those lines, there were children transplants. Now, if you did not get a slot on a dialysis machine, you were dead. So we tried to transplant everybody we could. And the first transplant was, in fact, at Montifore. Didn't work for very long. But subsequent to that, we kept going. And this was one of the earliest young children done. He was, I think, about 10 kilos or some such thing, 2.5 years old. You'll hear from him in a little while, okay? That was 29 years ago. Now, also understand, you take your drugs for granted, but this is before we had all of this stuff, okay? We had no cyclosporin, most of you are not even cyclosporin, now you're on a program. Well, we had none of those things. There was no such thing as a coordinator. They weren't invented yet. We did all the schlepping ourselves. Brain death. Brain death, it was vague. People understood that if the brain wasn't working, you were dead. But it wasn't generally agreed upon. I know that I was personally accused in newspaper headlines of murder because we took kidneys from somebody whose brain was dead because lungs were working, okay? So that's the kind of circumstance we were working with. And that wasn't enough. That's just talking about transplant, but how to make it work. So we loaded a bus full of people and went to Albany to lobby for brain death. Well, I think they misunderstood our message because they didn't pass anything about brain death. They themselves, I think, developed it. That's our legislature. But if you notice in the extreme right there in the front row, that little young lady there, that's Mary McKinney. And they scattered around the patient, the staff, the house staff, everybody who could. We loaded in a bus and we went. Okay, that's one piece. We did other stuff. If we were going to get anything going, we needed the public to be involved. Who's going to reach the public? The clergy. So we set up the first clergy conference around, and we got authority. We got Jewish authority to agree with us. That's the Journal of the Halachic Contemporary Society, and they were on board if it was done in an appropriate fashion, which is what we want. And notice that we have representative of all the major faiths, all on board. Okay. All right, that wasn't enough. How about politicians? Well, how am I doing, Mayor? He was on board too. These are, I think most of these people transplanted either at Montifore or Einstein, if I remember correctly, these kids that we had. So he took a picture with them to do the first Donor Awareness Week in 1984. And every little bit helped. That's how we worked at it, okay? Now, we didn't quite give up on brain death, but we could not get our legislature to work. So what happened was the Department of Health issued a finding. And the finding was, because of legal precedents, brain death is now legal in New York State. What were the legal precedents?
I can't get the video.
They supported a landmark 1984 court decision. That court decision is when our Department of Surgery and our chairman sued the New York Medical Examiner for not permitting us to take out organs. And the reason was, this guy was murdered, he had a bullet in his brain, and if you take his organs, you're going to kill him. So that was the argument. And the judge said, no, you're wrong. Okay? And the judge permitted us to do that. And that was the basis upon which New York State case law is not held. And along the way, did a thing, we learned how to transport organs, we learned how to preserve organs. We learned to either put them in ice water or put them on machines. We were very active in organ retrieval, so this is about, 5 years worth, 10 years worth of organs in the whole New York area, and you see Monitiore got more than anybody else, working all over the place. We have reached agreement with other centers. Our skip is done, and not just kidney. We also did the first extra-renal organ transplant in New York City. Again, that's a lung transplant. A guy came in from Florida with paraquat poisoning. He lived for many months. I mean, we had no support facilities then. We had the only long-term functioning pancreas transplant in the world for a while. I'm sorry, I'm going backwards. We celebrated Montifiore's, I think, 50th anniversary, 50th centennial, I'm sorry. But these are world leaders in transplantation, in heart, lung, liver, you name it. What's different? A few samples, I'll skip that, doesn't matter right now. We won't talk about too much detail because we really don't have a lot of time. Okay, we still do a cross-match, it's essential. We still need immunosuppression. We change from just trying dumb luck to witchcraft, okay? This is what somebody was going to be here today, couldn't make it because she's in Florida and couldn't get a plane, okay? But she is 35 years, a grandmother with her third kidney. The first two didn't work, but the third one's going strong. And this person, another person that some of you will recognize, as Pat McDonough, a donor to her brother, Bill, okay?
I didn't recognize it.
And now things have become almost routine. Front page of the New York Times about 2 years ago now, showing exchanges across the country. We have been a part of many of them. And finally, I'll end with this. This is from about a month ago in the New York Times. That young fellow on the left-hand side of the screen borrowed his mother's car, went out with his friends, and not realizing what they were up to, they basically sprayed a mosque with graffiti and caused a lot of damage. So much damage that it became a federal offense, for which, having they found the guys, they caught him, he was going to go to jail. So the guy there is a Syrian refugee, a Palestinian refugee, who had by chance received a kidney transplant along the way. This guy wrote a letter of apology to the mosque saying, I didn't mean to do this stuff. So this guy who's an imam of that mosque set up a cooperative where churches and synagogues in the region all chimed in, wrote a letter to the judge saying, no, this guy shouldn't go to jail. And he didn't. He got off and he got probation. And I think it's a good place to end, especially this day that we are living in.
Thank you so much for those wonderful remarks. There's been a bit of a change in the program, which I'm very excited to say. The president and CEO of the hospital just walked.
His wife, Carmen Rodriguez, her brother Carlos, his dad, Erica is here. Donors and recipients. He said we should name the hospital after Rodriguez's Figueroa's. He just had hip surgery and came. So.
Good day. When I was asked about this, I was joking around with, and I donated my kidney to my son in October 9th, 2008, and he is 30 years old. He works for the New York State court system, and he is a father, and doing very well right now. My daughter, she's my hero because I could not give my son a kidney. My youngest son, Anthony, and she stepped forward in March of
2010.
2010. She's here. And that lasted for 6 years. And from the 7 recipients, 4 of them have had double transplants. My brother-in-law Carlos, his first one lasted more than 25 years. My wife Carmen, hers lasted 6 years, and she's on her second one, and she got it from her half-brother, who she never met, and that was in January 2002. And then my son, David, who's a cousin of my son and daughter, cousin, he's your nephew. And he got his second one, I believe it was April of last year. My son Anthony got his second one in July. And my brother-in-law Carlos, he had complications due to a heart issue. He received his second one in, I believe it was February of this year. So we're very well affiliated with transplantation, whether the family receives or we give. And numerous of doctors, starting with Dr. Tellis, my son, they were followed by Dr. Corey, Dr. Greifer, and Dr. Cascal. And the families like the Energizer rabbit. They take a licking and keep on ticking. So thank you, Montifore, for everything you've done for our family.